Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Thursday edition of First Look. We're going to tell you about some of the stories we're working on for tonight. It's been a busy news day already because the president held a news conference in the refurbished White House briefing room this morning to talk about Iraq, obviously about this interim report that has come out that was required by Congress when they approved more funding. And we have Jim Axelrod covering that and really how the White House is trying to portray the benchmarks that were set by Congress and the fact that about half, they claim, have been met. So we're going to look at sort of how the benchmarks are doing and really the White House strategy to try to galvanize support for this war that is decreasing in popularity every day, it seems. Then we're going to have a piece from Alan Pizzi from Baghdad. He's going to look at some of the benchmarks and some of the progress that is or isn't being made. He's going to be talking about what's been done in the Anbar province. You know, they've had a lot of progress there fighting al-Qaeda because the local population and Sunni insurgents have actually joined forces with the U.S. troops and Iraqi troops fighting against al-Qaeda. He's going to give us sort of take the temperature there and see if it's as good as the president portrays it to be. Also, we'll look at Iraqi security forces, why we're having trouble training those 350,000 Iraqi soldiers and security personnel, as well as the Iraqi government and whether that's in a state of paralysis. David Martin will also have a report about al-Qaeda in Iraq and whether al-Qaeda is reconstituting itself. There was a report yesterday saying it was stronger than it was in 2001 when September 11th obviously took place. So he's going to take a look at where are we now vis-a-vis al-Qaeda. So we're all over that story like white on rice. Our transportation correspondent Nancy Cordes has a piece about a near miss at the airport in Fort Lauderdale. Two planes came very close to colliding, apparently, and crisis was averted, but just barely. So that should be a fascinating story. Also, Hari Srinivasan, who has one of my favorite names of all the correspondents here at CBS News, is going to be continuing our series called The Road Ahead with a look at elderly drivers. When do they need to give up their driver's license? It's a really touchy issue that many families in this country have to deal with. And finally, Bill Plant has a fascinating closing piece about some Nixon tapes, and he talks about George McGovern in those tapes. And what I thought was the most fascinating part of the tapes was that Nixon talks and he never lets anyone else respond or answer. But George McGovern is discussed during the course of some of these tapes, and George McGovern has some fairly humorous reaction to this. So we've got a lot of interesting things coming up on the show tonight. We hope you'll join us. Oh, and I interviewed Secretary of State Condi Rice as well about this interim progress report and asked her a lot about it. And she was as interesting as she always is. So hopefully you'll join us tonight at 6:30 or maybe 5:30, depending where you live, and on the CBS Evening News with moi. And we'll see you then.